challenges, and we are no longer facing fiscal watch. While the state of Ohio will not announce our official FY18 Senate Bill 6 score until likely the beginning of 2019, we believe, based on preliminary audited data, which has been submitted to the state, that our SB6 score will not be below 1.75. In fact, based on this preliminary audited data, we believe that Wright State's SB6 score will be a 2.2. We can say with much certainty that we have avoided fiscal watch. A recent headline stated that it will take Wright State 20 years to recover from this budget crisis. And while it is true that it actually might take 20 years to restore reserves to what they were 6 years ago, fiscal sustainability will come much sooner as we build reserves and build revenue and regularly realize an operating surplus. And people may realize that it likely took 20 years to build up that reserve to begin with.
So Debbie, excuse me. Sure. You would say then that the headline of this is.
I just wanted to clarify what the headline meant, because I understand that it caused some concern for many people. And so what I wanted to do was just clarify that in the report it said it will likely take 20 years to rebuild the reserves to what they were 6 years ago. But that does not mean that it will take us 20 years to recover from the financial position. It will take us.
Say, I'll say it was misleading. It was misleading.
Well, again, I think that's one of the reasons why I would use this public session to just clarify so that people understand. We have some work before us. And so it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, and it doesn't mean that we have now immediately jumped into a fiscally sustainable process. We still have some work to do. We, in fact, in spending $53 million less this year than the previous year, accomplished that with some one-time dollars. And we need to be able to bring that into the budget in a structural way, and that will occur over the next year or two. So we will get there, and it won't be 20 years until we are regularly posting those surpluses and continuing to build up the reserves. But as it stands now, we will not be going into fiscal watch at all. And so that means that we have made the impossible possible. In addition, we've doubled down on diversifying and growing revenue while maintaining our fiscal discipline. And to that end, I formed a growth mindset advisory team, which has met nearly weekly since August. And while this team is really working diligently to have its recommendations to me by December, some of the early emerging ideas are already being implemented. And some of those we should see an impact in the spring already. It is my great hope that all of us will pivot the university to an innovative growth mindset as this group leads the way. And such a mindset really means that we see obstacles in a different way. And inevitably, we're going to run into obstacles. It means that we see obstacles as opportunity and challenges as chances to change for the better. It has taken a great deal of hard work and tremendous sacrifice by everyone at the university to get us to this point. And while it has not been easy, we should acknowledge again that we did the impossible. But as you know, we still have a long way to go. And people are feeling the pinch of our financial challenges, and so we continue to work together to resolve those challenges and make sure that we are appropriately investing the resources that we have. It is also important to note that our $10 million surplus from FY18 allows us to bridge the current shortfall in enrollment until we can integrate that into the budget and balance that as well. But those are one-time funds. While there's still much work to be done, I do have every faith that the students and the faculty and the staff of this great university, working together, will help us get to where we need to be. We are heading in the right direction. And with our new strategic plan, which I do look forward to presenting to you, to the board, this morning, the future of Wright State University is a bright one. We just need together, we all need to maintain our commitment to excellence and fiscal responsibility to get us there. So thank you very much. So next I'd like to go to the confirmation of academic and administrative appointments and changes. And you see the list before you. I have a resolution to offer. Resolved that the academic and administrative appointments, changes, retirements, departmental reporting, resignations, and terminations submitted to this meeting be, and the same hereby are approved.
Okay, I would offer the motion to that resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Stephanie. A roll call vote, Mr. Chan.
Mr. Bridges?
Recuse.
Mr. Fecher?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Langos?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
General Moore? Ms. Ramos? Motion passes 5, 1 recusal.
Thank you. Continue, please.
Next, I'll move on to the report of investments. Since the last board meeting, the investments report for August 2018 has been received. These reports have been distributed to the trustees and will be filed with the official Board of Trustees records. Next, I'll move on to the ratification of contracts and grants. Wright State University ended its fiscal year 2018 with a total of $93,778,464 in external funding, representing 402 awards. For the time period July 1 through August 31st, 2018, the university recorded 78 awards for a total of $24,711,240. Recent funding received by the university includes a $454,967 grant from the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke to Dr. Andrew Voss from Biological Sciences in the College of Science and Mathematics for his study of Huntington's disease. And additionally, Drs. Jason Dybel and Adrian Traxler from Physics in the College of Science and Math received $997,589 from the National Science Foundation to provide financially at-risk science and mathematics majors with a team-driven experiential learning and research program. I offer the following resolution. Resolved that the contracts and grants submitted to this meeting be, and the same hereby are ratified.
I would offer this motion. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Bruce. Roll call vote, Mr. Chan.
Mr. Bridges?
Recuse.
Mr. Fecher?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Langos?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
General Moore? Ms. Ramos? Motion passes 6-0 with 1 recusal.
And I have one more item to address, and that is facility security clearance resolution. Due to personnel changes, the following resolution to amend Wright State's facility security clearance is before the board for approval. Whereas Wright State University wishes to maintain its facility security clearance through the Defense Security Service, and whereas 3 persons occupying the following positions among the officers and officials at Wright State University shall be known as Key Management Personnel, or KMP, as described in the National Industrial Security Program Operating Manual. Dr. Cheryl B. Schrader, President, Dr. Susan L. Edwards, Provost, and Ms. Ellen Reich-Fries, interim vice president for research. Whereas the KMP have been processed or will be processed to the level of the facility clearance granted by the institution to this institution as provided for in the aforementioned National Industrial Security Program Operating Manual. And whereas the said KMP are hereby delegated all of the board's duties and responsibilities pertaining to the protection of classified information under classified contracts of the Department of Defense or user agencies of its industrial security program awarded to Wright State University. And whereas the following named members of the Board of Trustees shall not require, shall not have, and can be effectively excluded from access to all classified information in the possession of Wright State University, and do not occupy a position that would enable them to affect adversely the policies and practices of Wright State University in the performance of classified contracts for the Department of Defense or user agencies. And those named board members are all of the official board members for the trustees. So therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Wright State University authorizes the establishment of the above AMP, and this resolution supersedes Resolution 18-14 dated October 6, 2017.
I would offer this motion. May I have a second, please? Second. Thank you, CD. Roll call vote, Mr. Chan.
Mr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Fecher?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Langos?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
General Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Ramos? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to our reports of committee of the board, and we'll start with the Academic Affairs and Enrollment Committee. Mr. Bridges, please.
Thank you, Chair Fecher. Ms. Stephanie Green called the meeting to order at 1:18 p.m. During committee day and read the conflict of interest statement. Trustee Green welcomed Dr. Susan Edwards to her first committee day since assuming her role as Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost for Wright State on July 30th. Provost Edwards reaffirmed Wright State's focus on providing a quality education to students and providing an update on fall enrollment. Based on the budget adopted in June 2018, fall enrollment is below expectations. Groups predominantly affected by the decrease include college credit plus students, down 6.4%, direct from high school students, down 15.2%, and transfer students, down 16.9%. While some enrollment decrease may mirror national trends, other negative influences such as budget concerns, impending industrial action, and overwhelming news coverage could be factors. A correlation between negative news coverage and enrollment decision points along the enrollment cycle was noted. Dr. Edwards has set the enrollment management as her first priority. Efforts are underway to improve the registration process, to streamline the transfer process, to strengthen articulation and pathway agreements with community colleges, and to implement the Common App. Workshops on navigating financial aid and the application process are being offered. Dr. Edwards encouraged everyone to do their part to change the narrative of the institution. Wright State continues to have great things happen. By leveling the barriers to student success, closing the achievement gap, and producing more quality graduates for Ohio and the nation, Wright State continues to make a significant impact on the region and beyond. Emeritus request. The Academic Affairs and Enrollment Committee heard a request for emeritus status, and with a motion from Ms. Ramos and a second from Mr. Montgomery, are presenting the following resolution for the board consideration and approval. Whereas faculty members who have served 10 or more years as fully affiliated and full-time members of Wright State will automatically be granted the emeritus title upon retirement and upon written request by the faculty member to the provost. And whereas Dr. Herbert Tergalia, Professor of Music and Associate Dean of Liberal Arts, served the university from 1998 in a fully affiliated and full-time status and has requested emeritus status. And whereby James Larson, Professor of Finance and Financial Services, served the university from 1987 in a fully affiliated and full-time status, has requested emeritus status. Dr. David Petrman, Professor of Modern Languages, served the university from 1986 in a fully affiliated and full-time status, has requested emeritus status. Whereas K.T. Arasu, Professor of Mathematics and Statistics, served the university from 1983 in a fully affiliated and full-time status and has requested emeritus status. Therefore, be it resolved that the emeritus that the request for emeritus status for the aforementioned faculty members are submitted to this meeting and are the same hereby endorsed. I offer this motion.
Is there a second, please? Thank you, Grace. Roll call vote.
Mr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Fecher?
Yes?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Langos?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
General Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Ramos? Motion passes unanimously.
Posthumous degree request for Ms. Andrea Heiser. Provost Edwards and the Academic Affairs Enrollment Committee, motion by Mr. Montgomery with a second by Ms. Ramos, support granting a posthumous degree to Ms. Andrea Heiser. The following resolution is before the board for approval. Whereas Wright State University shares with family and friends in the loss of Ms. Andrea Heiser, and whereas Ms. Heiser was a senior statistics major at Wright State who was dedicated to completing her degree and was held in very high regard among faculty in her program. And whereas the chair of the Department of Mathematics and Statistics and the dean of the College of Science and Mathematics have recommended Ms. Heiser be granted a posthumous degree. And whereas the provost has reviewed the recommendation and supports the granting of a posthumous degree to Ms. Heiser, therefore be it resolved that Wright State University Board of Trustees hereby approves granting a posthumous Bachelor of Science degree to Ms. Andrea Heiser. I offer this motion.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Roll call vote.
Mr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Fecher?
Yes?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Langos?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
General Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Ramos? Motion passes unanimously.
Tuition waiver recommendation for international students from universities approved through an MOU with the Saudi Arabia Cultural Mission, SACM. To enhance international enrollment, Wright State would like to offer a fee reduction of 25% to the non-Ohio resident surcharge for undergraduate and graduate students from institutions sponsored by the Saudi Arabia Cultural Mission. Mr. Holmes, Associate Vice President for International Education, answered questions on demand and program enrollment expectations. And Dr. Linda Karen, Dean of the College of Liberal Arts, discussed capacity of the LEAP program to meet these students' needs. Full details are posted on the Wright State website. Resolution under consideration was mentioned by Mr. Fecher and motioned by Mr. Fecher and seconded by Mr. Montgomery in the committee meeting for presentation before board today.
Better motion?
The resolution is included in here, and therefore I will make a motion to pass that resolution.
Is there a second, please? That's a lengthy resolution.
Yes.
And standard. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Fecher?
Yes?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
General Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Ramos? Motion passes unanimously.
Tuition waiver recommendation for College of Nursing and Health and Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. The committee reviewed a request to discount out-of-state tuition for Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center employees enrolled in the Nursing Masters in Pediatric Nurse Practitioner Acute Care Program. CCHMC covers the cost of the program. However, some of their employees are not living in Ohio, which triggers an out-of-state tuition rate. This MOU removes most of the out-of-state charges for those employees. The resolution is included herein, and I offer said motion.
Thank you. Is there a second, please? Thank you, Grace. Roll call vote.
Mr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Fecher?
Yes?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
General Moore? Ms. Ramos? Motion passes unanimously.
Campus completion plan. Dr. Edwards presented Wright State's 2018 campus completion plan to the committee for review prior to submission to the full board for approval. This report is a requirement of the state, represents the continuation of a series of initiatives to enhance student learning, progress, and degree completion. Mr. Lytell indicated that reports have been filed in 2014 and 2016. The target goal for this series is a 3% increase in each of the areas of retention, persistence, and completion. That resolution is included in our packet, and I offer said motion.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Stephanie. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Fecher?
Yes?
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Colonel Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Ramos? Motion passes unanimously.
For the good of the order, Dr. Travis Doom, faculty president, offered a comment on the focus of the strategic plan. He indicated that it should be self-evident that decisions made in conjunction with the strategic plan should be around the best interests and support of students, and not only around the financial return on investment. Meeting was adjourned at 2:38. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We'll move to the Board Governance and Compliance Committee. C.D. Moore.
Thank you, Chair Fecher. The Governance and Compliance meeting was called to order at 11:30 a.m. And the conflict of interest statement was read. Ms. Kelly Tittle, the University Compliance Director, continued a discussion on affiliated entities that began in the Finance Audit and Infrastructure Committee meeting earlier that day. Ms. Tittle offered an update on the status of the affiliated entity review process. 7 entities originally under review have been found to not have an affiliation with Wright State. 6 entity relationships have been dissolved since the review process was implemented and are no longer considered affiliated entities. 4 entities are currently under review. Affiliation agreements are being finalized for Wright State Foundation and the Wright State Alumni Association and are nearing final completion. Documentation for Wright State Physicians, Inc. is currently under review and a draft agreement has been provided for input. Work is still underway with the Dayton Regional STEM School, and an existing MOA has been extended through December 2018. At that time, a new MOA will be created that satisfies the requirements of the affiliated entity policy. On deck for review are the Research Park Capital Corporation, the Miami Valley Research Foundation, and the Western Ohio Education Foundation. The University Psychological Services Association, Inc. has been sent a copy of the entity policy with a request for documentation to begin their review. Board discussion also highlighted that in 2014-2015, the board was not fully aware of affiliated entities and the relationship to Wright State. With the passage of the affiliated entity policy and its associated review process, the board has been able to formally identify affiliated entities, determine whether or not they exist for the benefit of the school, and require reporting from all entities. As written in the policy, the board will receive a yearly report from each entity. Wright State Applied Research Corporation will be the first entity to reach their reporting milestone. This report will be presented to the Governance and Compliance Committee by the end of the year. The second topic of the committee dealt with compliance risk assessment. Wright State is required by the government to do regular monitoring, auditing, and routine risk assessments on compliance with regulations, laws, and reporting. Ms. Tittle outlined the steps the university has begun implementing to perform a compliance risk assessment. The first step is to identify compliance risks spread across the campus, a large undertaking given the variety and complexity of compliance regulations which the university is held accountable. Once risks have been identified, the likelihood of a risk event happening and its potential impact will be established. Risks will be prioritized, potential responses determined, and plans put in place to manage these risks. Lastly, monitoring and updates will be done as required. Trustees did express concern about financial and other risks and asked that a comprehensive plan include these assessments as well. The third topic of the committee dealt with program effectiveness review. The Office of Compliance has been in operation almost 2 years. In conjunction with the university-wide program effectiveness review process, Ms. Tittle has developed key performance indicators and success outcomes to track the program's effectiveness. The use of a biennial compliance culture survey to measure stakeholder perceptions and attitudes toward Wright State's compliance and ethics environment will be used for this assessment. On opposite years, a compliance knowledge survey will measure stakeholder knowledge of Wright State's compliance program. The board recognized Ms. Tittle's efforts and the great strides she has made as a single-person office over the last 2 years in implementing a thorough compliance process for the university. I'd like to take this opportunity today to reiterate that gratitude for Ms. Tittle. The meeting was adjourned at 12:11 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, CD. We'll move on to the Finance, Audit, and Infrastructure Committee, and I'll go ahead and give that report. A lot of this information that's in this report has been already shared with you, and so I'll move through those parts and talk about the things that haven't come up yet today. This was the first Finance Committee meeting of the year, and we now hold the Finance Committee meetings monthly, and we did review what was likely to be the year-end performance for the most recently completed fiscal year, and Dr. Schrader went over those in her opening remarks. In terms of the Vice President's comments, recapping the last few years, Mr. Branson, who's the Vice President for Finance and Operations and Chief Business Officer, talked about how Wright State finished fiscal year 17 with a $24.6 million deficit, and 2018 turned into the surplus that Dr. Schrader mentioned before. The original fiscal year 17-18 budget called for a $30 million spending reductions over the previous year, and given the way revenue came in shy of expectations, that savings reductions was increased to $53 million, also as already mentioned. We moved on to the fiscal 19 budget, which remains challenging because of the trends in enrollment. And as we entered the fall, we had a shortfall in revenue, which appears to be manageable compared to the previous years when projected out over an annual basis. The high-risk areas for our budget moving forward, and this discussion was around what do we have to make sure we really focus on closely to ensure that we hit our targeted goal this year of a $3 million surplus. The high-risk areas for the budget are continued deviation from tuition and fees on the revenue side, and monitoring the health insurance on the expense side. One of the impacts of the cost cutting over the past few years is the loss of flexibility. Departments are without surplus resources and lack flexibility to incur additional cuts without significant changes in operations. And so our oversight of the budget is probably the most critical thing that we have going for us in this coming year. There was a discussion on the challenges to the budget that showed up in the past, such as unfunded positions, and by the past we mean over the last 5 years or even more, that our budget contained unfunded positions and spending for unfunded positions and project cost overruns. Over the last year, one of the quietest but I think most important improvements was the extensive work that was done to base fund the entire budget, to align budgets previously that had not been included where necessary and eliminate them where not necessary, and most importantly, institute controls to create accountability. Deferred maintenance areas have also been identified and prioritized with state capital requests. Confidence is strong that barring a catastrophic event, significant challenges to the budget have been addressed, and that's talking about the structure of the budget and how things are put into the budget. The key is that there be no unfunded budget items that would come up during the year. It all needed to be included in the budget. That's the only way we can have a good, accurate plan of where we're at. We then received an annual audit status update from Mr. Jim Creedon, who's the audit partner with BKD, and Mr. Mike Berm, audit director, and they provided an overview of the scope and timing of the Wright State's annual financial audit and areas of risk. There is a mandated schedule for focused compliance audits with major federal awards programs, and this year BKD will be taking a look at the financial aid cluster as part of this audit process. Also of note are changes to reporting of pension and benefit liabilities on the balance sheet and upcoming requirements under GASB 87 that will reclassify leases starting in 2020. As part of the reviewing of the various GASB requirements, the committee had questions on the reporting effects of GASB on the balance sheet and whether or not they reflect true liabilities. There was a request to schedule a more in-depth presentation on the accounting aspects of the pensions under GASB rules at a future meeting. At the time, BKD's audit process is in process, and a final report was due to the Auditor of State on October 15th and 2018, and I can report that that final report was submitted to the state by the deadline of October 15th. We moved on to talk about the Affordability and Efficiency Report. Dr. Dan Crane, Chair of Wright State's Task Force on Affordability and Efficiency, presented a draft of Wright State's 2018 Affordability and Efficiency Report to the committee. I mentioned this in my opening comments. The report satisfies an ODHE requirement to outline ways in which institutions are saving money or doing things more efficiently to help manage the cost of tuition for our students. Recently, additional emphasis has been on reducing costs for students or creating synergies and programs that cut across units. Wright State's 2017 report received favorable attention for our data recovery centers and for our affinity partnerships and sponsorships. Highlights of the 2018 report that may garner similar attention include work being done to enhance textbook affordability and with inclusive access, adoption of open resources, and the auto-adopt policy. The report was submitted to the Ohio Department of Higher Education on September 28th with provisions for any subsequent changes should the board so desire. I moved and Stephanie Green seconded a motion to move the report to the full board for approval, which we'll do today. So here is the resolution. A resolution on the affordability and efficiency report required by the state. Whereas the state law requires that all boards of trustees for each state institution of higher education shall develop an efficiency review of the institution based on the recommendation of the Ohio Task Force on Affordability and Efficiency. And whereas this review should consider efficiencies, academic processes, policy reforms, cost savings, redeployment of savings, and tangible benefits to students. And whereas not later than September 28th, 2018, each state institution of higher education shall submit the reports required under this section to the Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education, either approved or pending approval by the institution's Board of Trustees. And resolved that the attached Wright State University Affordability and Efficiency Report as submitted to this meeting be, and the same is hereby endorsed. I will offer this motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Fecher?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
General Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Ramos? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The committee then moved on to a discussion of the monthly financial performance reporting through the end of August. Mr. Branson introduced Mr. John Shipley, Interim Associate Vice President and Controller, who is assisting Wright State with financial matters until a permanent solution can be implemented. Mr. Shipley offered the monthly financial performance report. For conciseness and understanding, the format of the monthly reports have been changed and 3 new reports were developed and reported at this meeting. The first is the financial analysis of the unrestricted funds budget. The financial analysis revenue and expense report captures prior year results, current year performance to date, and the anticipated or projected performance through year end of unrestricted funds. Year end actual for fiscal year 2018 showed a net surplus of $10 million as mentioned in unrestricted funds. The fiscal year 2019 compared the first 2 months of revenue and expenses to what was budgeted for those 2 months. And the year-end June 30th projection showed a decrease of $2.4 million in revenue. Mr. Shipley indicated the revenue deviation was reflective of a $1.2 million decrease in revenue collected for fall, which then carries over to spring and would add another $1.2 million decrease for spring. However, early projections by year-end, despite the revenue decrease, are still targeting the $3 million surplus called for in the budget. That is our target. That's the target we need to hit in order to continue rebuilding our reserves. When asked confidence for this projection, Mr. Shipley indicated that based on the size and complexity of the budget and the number of levers available to address the revenue shortfall, it remains entirely possible to attain this goal. However, we have to recognize it was reported after just 2 months, 10 months to go. We then discussed the fiscal 2019 budget to actual report. This report features a pullout on the middle section of the previous report and offered no new information. We decided that since that was redundant information, not to include that in further future meetings. We then took a look at the fiscal year 2018 to fiscal year 2019 actual comparison. This is where we compare what were our revenues and expenses this year compared to what they were last year. Mr. Shipley indicated that this report showed where the university is year to date against annual budget compared to last fiscal year to date against actual year end. Early indications are the budget is right sized and on track with 42% of revenue collected this year against last year's 43%. Expenses are running 21% of the budget so far this year against 22% of the budget last year. Questions were asked about the variance in travel expenses from year to year, and further details will be identified. A suggestion was made to add a narrative postscript to the report for any areas of significant variance in the budget so that they can be noted on the report. We moved on to the fiscal year 2018 to fiscal year 2019 monthly budget to actual variance. This report offered a comparison of the single month of August budget to the actual fiscal years for 2018 and 2019. Of note was compensation. There were 3 bi-weekly payrolls in August this year, whereas last year there were only 2. The 3 pay month happened in September. That results in a little bit mismatch of the expenses in that category because of the difference between 3 payrolls versus 2, and so that will smooth out as we move into the year. The expense category for debt showed no entries because debt transfers for the year occurred in July. That's different than it had happened in previous years. The other expenses category is made up of capital equipment mostly, cost recoveries, credit card discounts, and library periodicals, among other things that do not fit neatly in other categories. And that was important because that other expense category, at least through now the end of September, shows a fairly wide positive budget variance. And so understanding what that budget variance in that category is important. We moved on to the cash forecast. As we previously mentioned, cash is up $10 million over last year. The projection is for cash to increase modestly this year based on the targeted $3 million surplus at year end. But we discussed the cash and investment income activity. While reserves are still thin, there has been a positive movement with reserve levels higher for fiscal 2018 than they were for fiscal 2017. This change shows a reversal of the continued decline in reserve levels that have taken place since 2012. The key to long-term improvement of cash and reserves, however, is sustained revenue growth, and that point can't be made strongly enough. We moved on to the approval of contracts between $250,000 and $499,000. Several contracts or one-time purchases were reviewed and approved by the Finance, Audit, and Infrastructure Committee. No further action on these items is necessary by the board. We moved on to approvals of expenditures, $250,000 to $499,000, and I do have a resolution. This resolution was the one that was approved in the Finance Committee. We then reviewed 10 contracts or transactions between $150,000 and $250,000 with the committee and answered questions. No committee or board action is required on these contracts. However, there is in the board governance policy a requirement that the administration notify the board of contracts in these dollar amounts, and that's what that agenda item did for us. We moved on to the investment reports, and Mr. Steve Sherbet, University Bursar and Director of Treasury Services, presented the SEI investment report for August 2018. The portfolio is heavily weighted in cash and liquid accounts and has been performing at an annual return of about 4.2%. This is a conservative portfolio geared towards cash preservation. It's also worth note that this was another change over the last 2 years, is to move our investment portfolio to a much more conservative investment program that is designed for safety of funds, not necessarily for the higher returns. It was a prudent move. The Finance and Infrastructure Committee entered into executive session, and let's see, I want to move through that. Entered into to discuss matters permitted in executive session, and the executive session adjourned at 10:11 a.m. Trustees returned to room 156, Student Union, for the continuation of the committee day. That meeting was adjourned at 10:11. So I tried to summarize that lengthy report. Does anybody have any questions? Did I miss anything? Thank you. So now we'll move on to the, let's see, the Student Affairs and Athletics Committee. And Grace will handle that.
Student Affairs and Athletics Committee called to order at 10:23, and we read the conflict of interest statement. The chair had the comments. Ms. Ramos commented that diversity among faculty and staff provides role models for multicultural students, socializing students on campus to other cultures, and is essential to achieving the vision that the university has set for itself. The institution must build a culture of diversity and proactively ensure we serve all people in the best way possible. We have a student government report. SGA President Daniel Palmer and Vice President Adrian Williams reviewed SGA's mission, launchpad principles, and major initiatives for the coming year. SGA has established a task force with the goal of introducing a referendum for a student fee in order to build an independent recreational center. The task force will be comprised of students, faculty, and staff, and will identify the desired and necessary features of the space. SGA senators are working on various mentorship and retention initiatives in partnership with their respective colleges, particularly focused on women, marginalized populations, and other segments of our student population who have historically been underrepresented on campus. Also, Mr. Palmer and Mr. Williams shared they recently testified before the state legislature on the topic of college affordability and mentorship for high school students. Mr. Palmer and Mr. Williams remarked that a well-rounded student experience beyond the classroom is key to increasing enrollment and retention, increased opportunities, and space for recreation. A first-year residency requirement and better promotion of weekend activities, including athletics, are critical to increasing the sense about community and enjoyment on campus. Mr. Fecher asked the SGA to work with students to determine additional ways the university can invest on retention efforts for at-risk students by identifying the stressors that are affecting them outside of the classroom. Vice President's report. Dr. Gary Dixon, Interim Vice President for Student Affairs, provided an update on the major campus-like events that were held at the beginning of the academic year. The new and transfer student welcome reception was attended by over 1,400 students. This event, sponsored by Student League Services and Charters, allows students to interact with members from the Dean's leadership team. Dr. Dixon reported that the current trend among higher education institutions is to provide case management services to students. Wright State has offered this type of assistance through the Department of Student Services Support Services for 30 years and is ahead of the trend. Dr. Dan Burstos, Director of Residence Life and Housing, presented an overview of the demographics of students residing in campus housing. Approximately 1,200 students moved in this fall from 22 states, 6 foreign countries, and Puerto Rico. The percentage of out-of-state students is increasing, but 80% still come from the Miami Valley. The percentage from Hamilton and Franklin counties is declining. Mr. Burstos reported that 83% of prospective students who responded to a recent admission survey consider on-campus housing an important factor in deciding which university to attend. If Wright State institutes a first-year residency requirement, it would increase the housing population by about 10% or 200 students. The last report was the athletic report. Director of Intercollegiate Athletics, Bob Grant, report on highlights from the athletic department. Student athletes continue to succeed academically. The last two years have had the highest published graduation rates in Wright State history at 88% and 87%. Student athletes collectively have earned GPAs of 3.0 or higher for 48 consecutive terms. Volleyball has had its best start in the past 10 years, and soccer has ranked in the top 25 for the second time in Wright State history. Wright State basketball has been rated as having the best facilities, highest attendance, and best coach in the Horizon League. Mr. Grant and student athlete Cole Gentry reported on the department's first ever foreign humanitarian services trip. The organization Samaritan's Feet fully funded the men's basketball team's trip to the Dominican Republic, where student athletes cleaned children's feet and fitted them for shoes. Mr. Gentry reflected on the way people from different cultures overcome a language barrier through the universal language of sport. The student athletes returned to the United States with a different perspective on their lives and the things that give it meaning. The meeting was adjourned at 11:20 a.m.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Moving on finally to the Special Committee on Medicine and Health, Mr. Montgomery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Anuj Goyal, Committee Chair, called the meeting to order at 5:01 p.m. on October 3rd, 2018, and read the conflict of interest statement. Dr. Goyal welcomed Dr. Susan Edwards, who was recently named Wright State University's Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost, to her first meeting with the committee. Premier Affiliation Discussion Update. Mr. Greg Sample, Operations Officer, shared the history on the 25-year working relationship between Premier Health and Wright State, and updated the committee on the status of discussions to formalize an agreement between the Boone Shaft School of Medicine and Premier Health. Provost Edwards, Greg Sample, Walt Branson, Larry Chan, and Margaret Dunn have been meeting regularly with the Premier team to define governance, clarify a, quote, preferred partner, unquote, relationship, and develop an affiliation agreement. The Special Committee on Medicine and Health hopes to review a draft agreement at their November 16th meeting and present a final document to the full board in December for approval. This agreement would have mutual benefits for both parties. Wright State partners with Premier for placements that provide students with clinical practice and direct patient care, while Premier benefits from an academic pipeline of skilled healthcare professionals. Mr. Sample recognized Ms. Teresa Zurid, Chief Academic Officer for Premier Health, who is a member of the Premier negotiation team and was in attendance at the meeting. Wright State's Integrated Health College. Wright State is moving towards an integrated health college that would centralize various health and human services programs and degrees scattered across multiple colleges. This new concentration creates an integrated care model that improves student retention and alignment with careers, channels resources to meet the community needs for skilled healthcare professionals, and addresses further demands as the delivery of healthcare services changes. Provost Edwards provided a status report on the process. Based on her review of the consolidation report, she's been meeting with departments affected by the change to discuss the impact of this reorganization and to identify synergies and benefits for students and regional partners. In our region, there's a shortage of skilled professionals, such as nurses and physicians. The committee discussed ways that Wright State might better understand this need and enhance or develop programs to train healthcare professionals. Ideas included increasing the size of the incoming nursing cohort, using predictive data from affiliates, and utilizing tracking tools developed by the Greater Dayton Area Hospital Association. President Schrader suggested the creation of an advisory board with our partners to identify gaps and opportunities for expansion. Trustee Goyle asked that the need be identified and reported yearly to allow for adjustments in curriculums and programs. Wright State is uniquely positioned to meet the healthcare needs of the rural counties around the Lake Campus. The Boone Schaaf School of Medicine provides students with learning opportunities in rural medicine, and the Greater Dayton Area Hospital Association's footprint also mirrors Raider Country, which incorporates those counties around the Lake Campus. Next topic is GDAHA involvement in the committee. Excuse me, I'm correcting a typo. Mr. Greg Sample announced that Dr. Brian Bucklew, President and CEO of the Greater Dayton Area Hospital Association and community member assisting the Medicine and Health Committee, will be leaving his position with GDAHA for a similar role in Northern California. An interim CEO will be named and will participate on the committee. Ms. Kim Paul, CEO of Wright State Physicians, was recently named the Chief Administrative Officer for the Boone Schaaf School of Medicine. This dual role allows for the better integration of the business structures between both entities. Ms. Paul was introduced to the committee members. Next item is the executive session. At 5:39 p.m., the Special Committee on Health and Medicine agreed to hold an executive session with a motion from Mr. Fecher and a second from Dr. Goyle to discuss employment/appointment of public employees. In accordance with amendments to the Ohio Open Meetings Law, the Special Committee on Medicine and Health, after a majority of a quorum of the members
Bill,
yeah.
that's just reporting a resolution that was passed. I don't know that you need to read
Oh,
that.
all right. Do I even need to read the resolution?
No, it was passed to enter into executive committee.
All right, I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions of Mr. Montgomery? Thank you. And now we'll move on to our student trustee report. Austin Raines.
Good morning. That was pretty good. Okay. I'd like to thank my fellow board members this morning for allowing me to speak, and I want to thank those of you in the audience for coming this early in the morning. I appreciate your passions. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a student trustee here on our board of trustees in my second year on the board. I'm a graduate student here studying and getting my MBA, and I also work full-time for Kettering Health Network. I want to first welcome Sean. I see Sean as a wonderful addition to our board. He brings a great perspective. I'm just going to read a little bit about him because he's accomplished a lot. Sean is a fourth-year student studying early childhood education with a minor in business. Currently, Sean is a student teaching in a first grade classroom 2 days a week in Trotwood. He has lived on campus going on 4 years, being an RA for 3 of them, this year being the head resident assistant in the apartment communities on campus. Sean has been a residential senator through the Student Government Association for the past 2 years. He's a member of his Dean Student Advisory Board for the College of Education and Human Services. Sean owns and operates his own mowing and landscaping business and is currently finishing up his 8th year in the business. Sean is also a member of Omicron Delta Kappa, Educators Rising, the Habitat for Humanity, and the Golden Key Honor Society. So I think Sean is going to be an awesome addition to our board, and I'm really excited to work with him this year. So I'm not going to give you a formal presentation today. I'm just going to speak a little bit, and then I'm going to invite Adrian to come up and speak as well. I'm going to briefly give you an overview for our initiatives this year as student trustees that Sean and I are going to work on. We're going to continue working and collaborating with the Wright State Student Government Association. I think we have amazing leaders on campus every day. And so I think that in order for us to work better together, we'll continue doing that. We're also going to work at the state level and national level with the Ohio Student Government Association and the Ohio Student Trustee Association. Wright State has continued to be the leaders in those discussions and leading out on those, and so I hope to continue that this year. Lastly is what I'm going to call the Student Voice Project. I think what's missing from our conversations is a student voice. We have some amazing, passionate students in our organization, and I get excited every single time I hear a story, and there's lots of stories to tell. So instead of me standing up here rehashing events that are happening on campus and other really nonsense, I'm going to bring a student up here. I'm going to allow them to share their story with you, because I think that has the most impact. So Sean and I will continue to do this during public sessions. If you'd like to see more information, I'm happy to get that information to you, but I think this is what's important. So I'd like to invite Adrian Williams up to speak, please.
Thank you to the Board of Trustees for allowing me to speak to you all today. I address you today as a student who loves his university and wants nothing more than to see its vision and mission succeed for years down the line. But to be honest, I'm a little disappointed. I'm disappointed because Wright State is being portrayed as a school where dreams go to die, where students struggle to graduate, a school that is a last resort for students making a college decision. I'm exhausted of walking across campus and seeing students constantly discouraged and frightened, exhausted of checking my email and seeing protest after protest and seeing negative news dominate the headlines about my university. I'm tired of sitting in class and hearing uninformed students worried sick about their education and hearing impractical concerns like whether or not they will be able to graduate or if their degrees will be accredited that stem from the constant stream of negativity that is perpetuated on this campus. I come to you today as a practical and informed student. I recognize that certain things must happen for our university to move forward and be sustainable in the long run, and that some of those events may be unfavorable and uncomfortable for students. I get it. But today I simply want to highlight some of the positive experiences that I've had and the opportunities that this university has given me in my time here. Wright State has afforded me the opportunity of lobby and testified at the State House on countless occasions on behalf of bills that directly pertain to students in Ohio, from tax-exempt textbooks to bills dealing with the opioid crisis and its effect on college students in Ohio. Wright State has given me the opportunity to meet U.S. senators, representatives, the Chancellor of Higher Education, Jeb Bush, Mike Pence, and work closely with all of the phenomenal faculty on this campus. I've had the opportunity to go out in the community and on campus and get to know the diverse student body we have on a personal level, hearing their concerns, ideas, and passions. I get the wonderful opportunity to interact with hundreds of phenomenal student organizations. When I received a speeding ticket, I got to see the phenomenal support that Student Legal Services provides its students. I heard the statistics that 94.4% of students who use student legal have reported that Student Legal Services directly decreased their stress levels and played a significant role in keeping them enrolled. I've had the opportunity to interact with the wonderful individuals in the Counseling and Wellness and Student Health Services Centers, being beyond appreciative with them when they took care of me as I dealt with a horrible case of the flu during finals last semester. I have had the opportunity to go to campus events and see Provost Edwards greet me with a hug and a smile, and see Dr. Gary Dickstein as he imparts amazing institutional knowledge to us in SGA. I get to see student enthusiasm for events like Do the U and Fall Fest, and get the opportunity to learn from experts in their fields like Dr. Dan Crane and Dr. Sizemore. Wright has given me the opportunity to get flown to Boston in a few weeks to meet with other leaders at colleges nationally to discuss ways to increase public advocacy and civic engagement on campus as Wright State's Newman Civic Fellow, working with Dr. Jack Dustin to bring a mentorship program and financial literacy courses for at-risk students to address retention. Wright State has afforded me the chance to work in a neuroscience laboratory during my freshman year. They gave me the experience and led me to receive the opportunity to work on a large paper at Harvard Medical School that was recently submitted for publication. Getting greeted with a bright smile and genuine conversation by the wonderful workers at Chartwell's while I grab some lunch during a busy day, or the tutors in the Student Success Center that are patient and understanding when some concepts are difficult to understand. Working with Matt Boaz and Bill Holmes as we try to tackle the retention rate of minority students, and seeing the statistics on the number of Wright State medical students that attend prestigious and Ivy League residencies every year. Getting to learn from the last two phenomenal student body presidents that both went to Harvard and Yale, and watching Austin and Sean as they do a phenomenal job representing students on the Board of Trustees. These are just a few of the things on campus that I've experienced, and for everyone that I listed, I could name countless more. I want to challenge you all today as faculty, professors, and the Board of Trustees, as we go through these trying times, to not forget Wright State's vision, to be Ohio's most learning-centered and innovative university, known and admired for its inclusive culture that respects the unique talent of each student, faculty, and staff member and alumni, and for the positive transformative impact we have on the students of and the communities we serve. I challenge everyone in this room to remember why we're all here. I challenge everyone to put their egos and agendas aside to work together towards a solution that will keep our university sustainable for years to come. Thank you for allowing me to share my perspective with you today, and I look forward to the great future of our university. Thank you.
So I hope that's just a taste, or you've gotten just a taste of what this university has to offer. This university is a hub for creating student leaders that will be future leaders in our community. And I direct this at everybody in the room, that you will see students come to this podium for the next year who will change the world. So everybody just remember that as we move forward. Thank you.
Now we'll hear from our faculty president, Dr. Travis Dillon.
Good afternoon, trustees, colleagues, guests. As a reminder, the Faculty Senate's goal is to provide a clear faculty voice in the execution of faculty duties, including the formulations of code and policy governing all aspects of academic, student, and faculty affairs, excluding bargaining unit terms and conditions of employment. It also includes investigation, discussion, and recommendation to any appropriate body of the university regarding any matter of interest to the university or its faculty. The Senate is a diverse, representative, deliberative body representing all faculty, full-time and part-time, non-tenure eligible and tenure track, bargaining unit, and non-bargaining unit. Since our last meeting, the faculty have been involved in several summer efforts through the Faculty Senate, including normal summer activities through administrative committees, including strategic planning, healthcare working group, growth mindset advisory team, etc. In addition, standing and ad hoc committees have been at work, including producing a report on the General Counsel's office on student success and international education. I'd like to share that last month, Wright State University students, staff, and faculty were one of 2 panels invited to share our experience in student success and textbook affordability with more than 200 of our statewide colleagues at the inaugural Ohio Textbook Affordability and Inclusive Access American Conference. This was a joint university-wide effort. It involved everyone, starting with students and faculty, but the heavy lifting is done by staff and administration to make that dream realized. I can also report that our fall 2018 pilot has expanded to include 40 courses, 120 sections, more than 6,000 students, and the savings projection for those students is on the order of $675,000 for the term. So that is what has happened regarding faculty governance since my last report. The Faculty Senate is relatively inactive during the summer. Most faculty are on 9-month contracts and are not necessarily involved with university business during the summer term. Instead, most pursue the practice of their professional disciplines. Thus, the tradition at the start of recent academic years has been for the Faculty Senate to report only briefly on summer activity, and instead use this opportunity to comment on the state of the faculty. Right now, there is a lot to say. You may recall that the theme of the Faculty Senate October address last year was guarded optimism. At that time, President Schrader's administration had just begun. In retrospect, and with one major exception, that guarded optimism appears to have been justified. Your chosen administration has led us through a year in which spending was cut by over $53 million. Units were held accountable to their budgets. We ended the year with a $10 million operating surplus, well above the board's set goal required to avoid fiscal watch. You have overseen a significant change in our short-term financial situation over the past year. Impressively, this financial challenge has generally been managed in ways that have not significantly diminished our ability to educate students. Our programs and students continue to be highly regarded by our accreditation bodies, community, and the employers of our students. However, our capacity is stressed. Accrediting agencies have already noted budget and staffing issues as areas to watch in future visits. In my October address last year, I voiced faculty concern over a perceived lack of effort to engage in good faith negotiation on the CBA, and Faculty Senate concern over the impact of not quickly addressing that uncertainty. That impact has now arrived. ODHE reports a 15-day headcount enrollment at public four-year institutions as being down 1% statewide. It reports Wright State's 15-day headcount enrollment down 9.8%. We are the state leader in public university enrollment loss this year. This is not due to a reduction in the quality of our academic offerings. A large portion of this loss is no doubt due to the public perception of our stability. Given that this is a critical time of the year for recruitment of new students, it would be foolish to think that an unresolved CBA, allowing for even the potential of a strike, would not earn us the same distinction for the next academic year. Over the last year, we've seen nearly double the number of voluntary tenure track resignations compared to recent years. This upcoming year is likely to be worse. We have lost some very, very good people, and it will be many years before they are effectively replaced. So the message that I come to deliver today is focused on a concern over a year old. How are we still even in a position where anyone would be considering the possibility of a faculty strike? The Faculty Senate is generally very careful to focus on curricular matters and, as much as possible, expects AAUP WSU to address matters pertaining to terms and conditions of employment. However, there are times when those domains overlap. Remaining publicly silent now on the implications of a faculty strike to the institution's very character and its ability to deliver a high-quality curriculum would be inexcusable. Today's message is endorsed by the Faculty Senate Executive Committee, representing elected faculty leadership from across the institution. We hope that you appreciate the care with which we treat our role as guardians of the curriculum, and that you understand it is precisely our perception of the gravity of the situation that makes it imperative that we tell you at the following time this message. The next few weeks are critical for the university. Our focus must remain on healing institutional trust, maintaining fiscal discipline, maintaining quality programs, and repairing reputational damage. It will be difficult, but with that focus, faculty are confident that our programs will remain healthy. However, for this to occur, we cannot allow the confidence of potential students and community members to be shaken by unnecessary conflicts over issues that are not urgent and immediate. Decades of collegial relations between the faculty union and Wright State University administration have been an institutional strength. That strength has supported an environment which was able to build our previous $120 million reserve. Recent steps are straining that collegial relation. The faculty as a whole understand that a legal brief provided in an adversarial legal system might take an extreme point of view for the benefit of tactical negotiation. But even accounting for purpose and rhetoric, the vast majority of the faculty finds that the positions and the tone espoused in the administration's fact finder's brief to be absurd. The changes to the CBA proposed in the brief, publicly released last week, do not address urgent and immediate problems. On the contrary, in our assessment, most of these proposals will likely create both immediate and long-term damage. The Faculty Senate speaks for all faculty, both those in the bargaining unit and those not. This has included some with extreme points of view and a majority who generally hold more moderate positions. It brings us no pleasure to tell you that after reading the administration's fact-finding brief last week, there are few moderates left. The position and tone espoused by your legal agent in the release brief will not heal the university. If we continue on this path, it could severely compromise our ability to deliver a high-quality curriculum. Any potential long-term good that changes proposed by the administration might possibly one day affect are overwhelmed by the short and the long-term harm of pursuing the current course. We find it difficult to fathom this breakdown in our years of productive collegiality. This is certainly not a time where any of us want anyone to fear that the university might close its doors, even for a second, over issues which do not have necessary and immediate impact on our mission or safety. The urgency of this challenge is dire. Therefore, the faculty leadership would like to challenge us all to work on healing the university now. This will require good faith negotiations involving compromise on both sides. It will also require postponing the negotiation of any new mechanisms designed to give future flexibility in dealing with future financial crises. These discussions should wait for future negotiations. We need to heal now. We challenge the faculty union to work as partners in enabling the university to negotiate total rising costs in the short term without undercutting its right in any way to bargain over this issue or total compensation in the future. Most importantly, we challenge you trustees, as our leaders, to not lead the university into a situation where the bargaining unit will be forced to strike. We issue these challenges after much careful deliberation to express the urgency felt by the faculty as a whole to move beyond this plague of uncertainty so the university can heal and thrive. Thank you for your time. I'll be happy to address any questions regarding the Faculty Senate report.
address the board and allow 5 minutes each for the following folks. We'll bring up first Dr. Nalin Mekvana, Professor of History and Director of Social Science Education, Contract Administration Officer and Executive Committee member of AAUP, and I apologize if I got your last name wrong.
It's all right. They just call me Dr. No. Trustees, President Schrader, we've gathered today to reason with you to do what's right for Wright State, which is to remove the articles that undermine the academic mission off the negotiating table so we can settle a fair contract quickly and allow us all to focus on building a better Wright State. There was never any need for this tension. This was your choice to break with a system that had worked well, to hire an attorney to fight us, to attack the fundamentals within our working conditions, which are the students' learning conditions. Faculty teaching students built the $130 million reserve fund. Administration and board were responsible for its destruction. Administration and board then decided to take advantage of the crisis bad management had created to attack full-time faculty. You can end this today, and you should, because you will not win a fight and pick with us. Let's consider where we stand. Mr. Fecher reminded us that you all were smart, but we knew that. It was you who underestimated us. You have several smart guys here from the world of tech, right? We have a whole college full of smart tech men and women. Let's hear it for the Faculty of Engineering and Computer Science. You have several smart businessmen. We have a whole college of business filled with very smart men and women who know how to interpret your 990s and your audits. We could perhaps have a member from the accountancy department analyze the latest audit fiasco at Wizark. Some people really need watching, fiscally speaking. And that college also includes our marketing department. Let's hear it for the faculty of the College of Business. You have a communication team. We have a whole department of communication. Plus, great writers galore. People pay cash money for our books. And artists and filmmakers. Filmmakers so excellent, they are endorsed by union member and most popular man in the world, Mr. Tom Hanks. Let the trustees hear it for the arts and humanities at Wright State. We are 560 experts in every field of human endeavor. And we have our partners, hundreds of men and women working in Raider country on our campus, in local businesses and schools and hospitals, delivering our message outward. We have 14,000 students in our classrooms. They come and they pay to be taught by us. They have relationships with us because we work with them every day, helping and encouraging them. Faculty have always had a growth mindset, President. We want our students to grow their minds, not to be molded as if they were lumps of clay for Mr. Langus's business interests. Faculty, let's let our students hear how we will fight for them. We have our allies. Let me introduce you to a few of them. Derek Pridemore. Where are you, Derek? Stand up. One of tens of thousands of alumni. They recall how faculty made a difference in their lives. We have our retirees, represented today by Dr. Larry Prohaska from the College of Science and Boonshaw School of Medicine, offering all their expertise to us. We have Mr. Paul Davis, a national leader of the collective bargaining chapters of AAUP, here to help us today. And we have Mr. Tom Ritchie, president of the Dayton and Miami Valley AFL-CIO, where we are affiliated. Mr. Fecher is joined by many union brethren scattered around the room today. Let's thank our allies. You have heard from the Mayor of Dayton, Ann Whaley, and you've heard from the Senator, Sherrod Brown. We have local commissioners, and we have also got local candidates, Kim McCarthy and Ryan Taylor in the House. This community of people, faculty, spouses, retirees, students, alumni, elected officials, and our union brethren join us in our fight for right. You will not win this fight. Stop it. Do not inflict any additional damage to this university. Get the power-grabbing articles off the table. It's okay to admit you don't know anything about higher education. One thing faculty learn from their years on the job is that to be good at one thing, like colonial American history, does not mean you're good at everything. The person in the office next door is an expert on something we know little about, let alone those in a different college. We recognize the limits on our expertise. So you know a lot about running a credit union, but you've demonstrated you know very little about running a university. And that's okay. That's why shared governance exists. On one thing, let us all be transparent. It is the current administration and board who were and are the cause of our problems, including current trustee Mr. Bridges, who was chair of the board through the overspending catastrophe. As the Ohio Ethics Commission has pointed out, Mr. Bridges was paying close enough attention.
A minute over, please.
Let the record show that Mr. Fecher tried to silence Dr. No. Nevertheless, she persisted. Paying close enough attention to ensure there was a lucrative job for his son at WSRI in the years it was being bailed out by millions of student tuition dollars.
Dr. No, I'm not trying to silence you. I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards, but as a courtesy, we granted you 5 minutes. We do have other speakers and other business.
I'll be right coming to my
Thank
conclusion.
you.
Current administration decided to put tenure and workload on the table so they can lay off even more faculty to make fewer and bigger classes for students. Those decisions didn't happen on Hopkins' watch. The decision to attack tenure belongs to President Cheryl Schrader. So we urge you all today to talk to each other about what you intend to do while we talk to the gathered press. Surely the double boondoggle story is enough. Please, for the sake of this community, do not embarrass us nor the governor who appointed you any further. Don't continue this uncivil war for a day longer than it needs, because we have united to fight for right. Let's see those signs. And we will win. Thank you, everybody.
Dr. Sadisha Naidu, Associate Professor of Economics, Grievance Officer and Executive Committee Member of AAUP, Wright State University. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
I would have addressed you as respected members of the board and President Schrader. However, respect has to be earned, and you as decision makers have not yet earned my respect. We faculty, as members of the Wright State community, are here yet again to express grave concerns about your decisions. We've been attending every Board of Trustee meeting since the disclosure of financial mismanagement by the university's central administration under the oversight of the Board of Trustees, some of whom continue in the current board. The university's central administration has accused the faculty of creating hysteria on campus. So let me highlight some of what has occurred in the past couple of years. Under the able leadership of the Board of Trustees and Central Administration, we lost over $100 million in reserves. Lost. Funny word, isn't it? Seems to suggest it was an accident. Despite this loss, In 2017, the Board of Trustees sanctioned that President Hopkins be paid $200,000 plus deferred compensation and other benefits. But the current administration and board are not blameless either. It hired a private law firm, Baker Hostetler, to negotiate with the faculty union AAUP. As of July 2018, the law firm has charged $250,000 for failed negotiations, even as academic departments are being forced to count pennies. Every previous contract was successfully negotiated by the university and university administration and AAUP with no extra cost to the administration. You, the current board, have continued to subsidize Double Bowler, an affiliated real estate entity. 80% of Double Bowler's revenues is derived from Wright State. Wright State also shells out $250,000 for its CEO's salary. I must point out that Double Bowler purchased a property from Wright Patt Credit Union with Wright State funds 4 months after the CEO of Wright Patt Credit Union joined our board. We're currently sitting in that building. This compounded by bad press reports on financial mismanagement, the presidential debate debacle, ethically suspect dealings with lobbyists, and more recently, the mismanagement of your attorneys briefed to the fact finder's report, the fact finder, which prompted the media to report that Wright State will not recover financially for another 20 years. And no, one NCAA game is not a silver bullet for enrollment as current numbers suggest. Bad decisions, however, are not restricted to personnel, management, media, and financial matters either. The board now appears to be engaged in direct attempts to undermine the academic mission of the university. On an August 17 Board of Trustee meeting, various board members dismissed the importance of humanities and the arts to this university. One board member even promoted associate degrees. Board members, please note, Wright State University is a 4-year degree granting public as one of our student members is already attested to. As the current leadership, you have not only failed to increase enrollments and control high costs associated with the top-heavy administration, but you have jeopardized the ability of this university to recruit and retain the very best professors in the country by attempting to negotiate on tenure. Your extreme proposals on tenure, healthcare, and job security are among the worst in the state and the country. It will prevent us from retaining and hiring good faculty for a very long time. We've already lost 90 faculty since spring 2016. This undermines the academic mission of this university. Not having sufficient faculty to teach classes and programs, not having sufficient department and college staff to keep programs running, not having sufficient custodial staff and ground workers to maintain safety and cleanliness undermines the ability of our students to graduate and faculty to do their jobs. Last spring, President Schrader used the analogy of pruning a garden to justify the cut she had made to staff. While the previous board may have let the garden overgrow, and to use a phrase Mr. Fecher used last semester, it fell asleep at the wheel, I urge you not to overcompensate. Too much pruning, as some of you know, severely distresses the tree beyond recovery. You have at various times suggested that everyone except faculty have rolled up their sleeves. But staff did not voluntarily agree to reduce their severance or to relinquish bumping rights when they have been subjected to culling. Nor did they agree to this inequitable healthcare costs. You have imposed the worst healthcare plan at all public universities in Ohio, despite our having very comparable healthcare costs. But it's not bad for everyone. Under this plan, highly paid administrators, even those making $250,000 and greater, are paying the same premiums as those making $75,000. You now want to impose this terrible, inequitable healthcare policy on faculty. You and your predecessors, who are responsible for our current situation, have characterized our legal right to bargain over working conditions as if it is somewhat selfish and unfair. Yet every concession thus far has been made by our union, the faculty union AAUP. On a number of unresolved articles, your proposals reflect your desire to dictate to us rather than to bargain in good faith. It's called bargaining, not dictating. You also rebuff our union's recent attempts to offer substantial concessions to break the impasse. Board members, President Schrader, I hope you realize that Wright State works because we, the faculty and staff, work. And you can be assured that we will roll up our sleeves to preserve tenure, the right to bargain, the academic mission, and the long-term viability of this university, because we are fighting for right.
I call for the resignation of Mr. Fecher and Mr. Bridges.
Our next is Dr. Namisha Patel.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Namisha Patel. I'm the chair and professor of the Teacher Education Department in the College of Education and Human Services. Trustees Langos, Fecher, Fitzpatrick, your prior comments related to the strategic plan make it clear that you lack an inherent understanding of the purpose of higher education. Rather than focusing on what is best for students, your comments suggest that your goal for Wright State is to align its mission and purpose with what is best for you and your respective companies. Your comments suggest that you care more about employees meeting your goals rather than facilitating students' ability to create their own goals to meet. What you fail to understand is that the goal of higher education is not to singularly create a workforce for you. We're not here to create a structure that focuses on your specific needs, or that to ensure that students become your employees. We are not here to do your bidding or to develop individuals who will be subsumed by your company culture as you hope. You see, what everyone here who works at Wright State, the staff, the graduate student instructors, learning assistants, tutors, faculty, chairs, all of us have a different mission than you, one that you need to recognize and appreciate. We're here to cultivate minds, to provide students with knowledge and develop their critical thinking skills. We're here to teach students how to question beliefs, their perspectives, their policies, question leadership, including everyone up there, including me as chair. To question corporate cultures, including those that promote unethical behaviors and that disenfranchise employees and communities. We're here to serve as lifelong mentors, to guide them through their struggles, celebrate their successes, teach them how to make thoughtful decisions in a world of contradiction. We're here to inspire a passion that is not so easily extinguished. We're here to lead them with lessons learned, lessons that will guide them in the presence of obstacles, those that will remind them of their greatness, and those that will forever empower them. We're not naive. We absolutely know that students seek a 4-year degree to make themselves more marketable, to develop high-needs skills, to earn higher wages and better benefits. And it is exactly with this in mind that we are here to help students attain the ability to successfully negotiate an ever-changing world. We're here to help them transform work cultures, not get caught in their fault. We're here to ensure that students have a plethora of choices and opportunities. We're here to be their voice and to help them develop and strengthen their own as needed. And we're here to help students stand for social change that creates a more just, democratic society. The board's comments and actions make it clear that it does not share these same goals. The inherent nature of higher education focuses on accountability, accreditation, approvals, faculty governance, shared governance, all of it. IHEs thrive under mutual accountability at all levels. Unfortunately, the board's past and continued process of using a corporate lens to lead this institution is at the core of our problems. It's the corporate lack of accountability for multi-million-dollar losses over the course of numerous years that has put us where we are today. It's the corporate mentality that allows those at fault for our situation to stay in power while others lose their jobs. It's the corporate approach that focuses on top-down management and works under the assumption that those at the top know better than all others. Your strategic focus on premium return on investments further evidences how much you want us to be a company and how little you choose to understand higher education. I won't pretend that we were in perfect shape prior to the financial crisis. However, we had a plan to focus on what needed improvement. We were working on improving programs, on generating and implementing innovative ideas that required both human and financial capital, projects that align with our university mission. Unfortunately, much of that work had to either be put on hold or largely scaled back, not because we stopped caring, and not because we weren't invested in those projects anymore, but rather the mess you created forced us to redirect our time, effort, and resources to other priorities that you forced upon us, not the priorities of the staff, the faculty, chairs, or our students. So it is with this in mind that I ask 3 things from the board. Number 1, if you haven't done so already, every single member of the board should personally apologize to the almost 100 staff members who have been who lost their jobs because of your complete lack of responsibility. So, if any of you have already done so, please let me know, and I will thank you personally right now. You might want to do that pretty soon. Second, for those who truly want to understand and abide by the principles of higher education, learn from those who live by them daily. Meet with the students to truly understand what they want and need from our institution. And you might as well ask them if they're here because of our athletics program as well. Talk with the staff who help students with everything from registering to courses, to getting financial aid, to provide them with health and counseling needs, to make sure that the classes actually exist. Every single thing that staff do, try to ask them about it. It's not that hard. 3, meet with faculty, chairs, and deans to understand academic and professional goals, to understand how your policies impact the work that gets done, and to determine what department and college academic structure should be in place. And since it was mentioned in a committee report, I will take a second to note that not all impacted programs by the tentative restructuring and creation of the integrated health program have been involved in any conversations. And I speak directly for my department, who will be negatively impacted, but who has not had a voice at any table. While none of this is an easy process, it is a worthy one. And if you need it, my department offers an education and democracy course taught by amazing full-time development to improve your effectiveness as a trustee. And here's the thing, it's really a win-win. I'll charge you graduate tuition, we increase enrollment and revenue, you learn some things, can't really go wrong. But my final point, and then I will wrap up. If we are here to survive and thrive, it is essential that trustees appreciate, respect, and invest in the unique culture of higher education and our goals, rather than attempting to continually corporatize it. Any trustee who is not willing to support this endeavor should reconsider your place on the board. Perhaps your contributions to the community would be better suited elsewhere. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the 3 presenters, Dr. Bibb. This board appreciates the passion that we have on this campus to do the right thing. We may disagree on what that is and how to get there. I believe that would probably be typical in most organization situations. This board has worked, despite what has been said publicly, with union leadership to try to find a way forward. Marty, I sat across the table from you. Marty, I sat across the table from you and asked you, let's find a way forward. We didn't agree on that way forward, but we have worked to get there. We stand willing and ready to continue to work to try to find that way forward to get there. And you know that to be true. We offered to listen and continue talking to try to find a way forward. As far as, well, now, please, if you'll allow me. In the last set of meetings, after listening, I thought carefully to what we believe were the number one issues of the faculty. The board made what we believe to be a fairly substantial concession on one of the largest issues, as we understood it, to the faculty. Now, it wasn't accepted. But this notion that the board is not willing to work to find a way forward isn't true. We may disagree on what that way forward is, and that's typical. And so I will finish my remarks by saying that I fundamentally disagree with some of the assertions that have been made about the positions taken by the board. Because I've been personally involved to try to find a way forward. I understand that the offers that we've made may not be palpable or acceptable, but that's where the progress I hope comes from. In the state of Ohio, there is a set of laws that govern how negotiations like this move forward, and we're not through that process yet. While it is unusual, as brought up by one of the speakers, that at Wright State University, agreements have come relatively easily, that's not typically the case. Fact-finding in the state of Ohio has occurred dozens of times this year alone. We have not yet even seen the final fact-finders report, which is due on October 29th. And my hope is that when we see that report, and when your union leadership sees that report, it may suggest other opportunities for moving forward. The last set of meetings that I attended, and frankly, there's been dozens of meetings, I only attended the last 3, I think. The union said, we don't want to strike. And the board said, we don't want to strike. We said, let's find a way forward, and we haven't found that way yet. That's why we're all here today. My hope is we do find that way forward. As I mentioned, and I'll finish here in a second, I'm giving myself 5 minutes. The board's number one care and concern is how do we put this university on a sustainable financial path so that we never get back here again. And that's what we've been talking about with your union leadership. Though we have not yet agreed, my hope is that we will, because we share your passion and your concern, and we want to do the right thing for all constituents to the best that we're able to do so, given the situation we find ourselves in, because we never want to get back here again. So Marty, you're a good guy. You sat across the table. I think we can work. We just have to keep at it. And you know we've offered to keep at it. Thank you. We'll move on to the last item, which is the strategic plan.
Well, good morning. Good morning. I'd like to talk a little bit about the strategic plan and mention that when we first began our strategic planning process in December of 2017, we did make a commitment that we would deliver a plan to you in October 2018. So today, I am so pleased to present to you our proposal for the Wright Patt 2025 Pride Transformation Potential. From the very beginning, Wright State University's strategic planning process was designed to be as inclusive as possible, and this is exactly what we've achieved, with more than 1,300 community members providing impact input into our proposed strategic plan. And after presenting the plan in detail to you today, we ask you to take the time to thoroughly review the materials and provide your final feedback. Though we are not requesting any official action university's proposed mission and vision. There's policy that states that the president, together with the faculty senate, develops the mission and vision. We shared the mission, vision, values, and strategy statement during the presentation to the faculty senate on October 8th. And we have already received some feedback from the faculty senate, much of which, by the way, has been complimentary, and have made some revisions to the plan based on those recommendations. Since the faculty senate will vote on the proposed mission and vision at their November meeting, we feel that it would be appropriate to hold off the Board of Trustees' official endorsement until your December meeting. It's also important to note that the university's strategic leadership group, which consists of our chief officers, deans, vice presidents, project coordinators, faculty senators, and the strategic planning steering committee, have weighed in on this plan. I have led strategic planning at many other institutions of higher education, in international professional organizations, and for nonprofits. And I am most proud of what we've been able to accomplish here at Wright State using the great talent that we have in-house. This has truly been a collaborative process that has brought not only our campus together, but the community as a whole. People across our campus and community have already built relationships and made connections that will continue to grow and flourish in the years to come directly as a result of this process. This process has been empowering, giving everyone a voice to the future of Wright State University. And together, we have developed a collective vision for this university that incorporates the thoughts and ideas of many, so that we can become the Wright State that our region and our state needs us to be. And we will implement the Wright Path 2025 in a way that will allow us to continue to build connections, empower people, and create momentum for a bright and meaningful future. I do look forward to working with each of you to make the Wright Path 2025 a living, dynamic plan that will guide our decisions and shape our behavior in the weeks, months, and years to come. So please join me in welcoming my strategic plan co-leaders, David Wright and Mike Lee.
Thank you. I appreciate that introduction, and I think from my experience as a facilitator, I have over 20 years of experience facilitating various meetings, various organizations, helping people to find common ground. And I think it is important to acknowledge the sentiments in the room and the competing tensions that we are facing as we've undergone this project. I spoke to this in February when I was first had the privilege of addressing the board. One of the reasons I took on this assignment, this opportunity, was in hope that I might be able to create a context for us to build bridges, create an environment where we could help to enable community and enable healing, even in a small way for those who would participate. And that's what you will see reflected here and what we're about to share. At least that's my hope. For those who have been participants in this process, I think what I've just described has occurred at some level. But I also acknowledge there are many people who have chosen not to participate. And I want to just acknowledge that. That said, I think what we have is sound, and it reflects the sentiments of many, many perspectives and many stakeholders. So, as President Schrader has just explained in her introduction, we are here to present a full draft of the Wright State University Strategic Plan. Our goal in this moment is to provide an overview of the plan, review the process for creating the plan, and explain how our process of strategic planning will continue. I would like to acknowledge, again, that there have been many people who have made contributions. We began the process of strategic planning with 10 community dialogue sessions that were held in February and in March of this year. Anyone who wanted to participate was invited, and we worked laboriously to try and involve as many people as we could. At these sessions, we asked people to share their stories of Wright State at its best, and taking all of the responses, we analyzed the answers to identify themes. In late March, we sponsored a 3-day strategic planning summit, and here we defined potential themes for values, mission, and vision, and areas of strategic focus. In addition, we organized 15 project groups to work on ideas for strategic actions, and during the summer, through 6 mini summits, or half-day sessions, these groups came up with dozens of project ideas. We've now refined these project ideas down to those we are sharing today. And you can see the evidence of, some of the evidence of that work just by looking on the walls around this room. Most of the sessions took place in this room, and we've left the working documents from those sessions as artifacts and as evidence of that process. By our estimate, we have had direct contributions from over 1,300 participants in all our activities, with over 7,500 person hours directly contributed. And in reality, this represents a very dedicated group of people, many of whom sacrificed a great deal of thought and effort and time to be part of it. We, again, would like to acknowledge anyone who's contributed. And if anybody in the room has participated in any of these at any level, just like you to raise your hand. Thank you. I think it is indicative of how we've tried to be inclusive. All right. You should have in front of you 2 documents. The first is a draft of the full strategic plan. The second is a summary on a single page, front and back. For those in the room, these are available in digital format on the strategic planning website. To set the stage for the plan, let's go back to the early days of our process where we asked these questions. What are we at Wright State when we are at our best? What organizational strengths are revealed when we look at our best stories? What opportunities do these strengths imply? These are the answers we received. The first and probably most prominent theme was student engagement. The most common theme in our stories was a focus on students. We heard dozens upon dozens of stories on this theme, which clearly communicated to us that when we are at our best, we put students first. We offer students experiential learning opportunities. We help them obtain a high-quality education. We collaborate with partner organizations to give them opportunities that they cannot obtain anywhere else. We help them in any way we can. The opportunity here is twofold. First, we need to focus on student life and student engagement. We can expand our cultural capacity to provide an inclusive, diverse, student-centered experience. We need to make the student experience an engaging one where students are elevated and energized when they participate on our campus. Second, we do need to elevate our teaching, learning, and programming to meet the needs of our students and communities. We can be much more intentional about growing our digital offerings in particular. Students also need and would benefit from more flexibility, and we can be innovative in our programming. In some, we can do more to help students explore and achieve their goals. The second key theme that came from these early conversations was the commitment of our people. And much of what you've just heard is evidence of that. We have extremely dedicated staff who are highly devoted to Wright State and what it stands for. Our people are knowledgeable, highly competent, dedicated, resilient, creative, driven, and deeply passionate about making a positive difference in the lives of our students. Our employees will go above and beyond what is expected to support Wright State University and its students. The stories that we heard of how this occurs are inspiring, reflect a deep passion. Our opportunity, our need, is to re-energize our commitment to our people. These past few years have been difficult. We need to heal by reaching out to one another, empowering one another, and collaborating to grow and realize our collective potential. The third theme that we heard in these early conversations was one of supportive service. That is, when we are at our best, we are responsive to others. We work across unit boundaries to deliver solutions that meet students' needs. When we are at our best, we support students in a personal way, walking them through processes, making sure they understand what is needed, breaking down barriers. When we are best, we communicate well with each other, we serve one another, we follow up, and we listen. Our opportunity here is to extend and elevate the supportive service we provide when we are at our best. We need to make it our norm to be at our best when it comes to service. We heard many stories of exceptional collaborative service, but we are also aware of breakdowns where improvements are needed. And this is a critical strategic opportunity. A fourth theme that we heard very prominently is national recognition. When we are at our best, our programs, our faculty, our students, and our scholarship receives national attention. We bring world-class expertise to the Miami Valley. Our high-quality programs earn prestigious accreditations and attract high-caliber faculty. Our former students move on to achieve prominence and success. Our opportunity here is to more fully embrace our reputation as a community-focused, national-caliber institution. We need to strengthen and elevate the research enterprise, position ourselves to embrace and tackle grind challenges, and leverage our capacity to catalyze innovation for this region and beyond. The fifth theme that was very prominent and last is community engagement. When we are at our best, we take advantage of our geography. We are situated at the crossroads of several organizations and institutions. Because of this proximity, we have the opportunity to pursue unique collaborations and partnerships. And when we are at our best, we do exactly this. We contribute in a strong way to workforce development, to the development of the lives of the people in our community, and we transform the communities we serve. Our opportunity in this strength is to do more and be more intentional. We need to strengthen our partnerships, especially with military, be more strategic about corporate and community engagement, and find ways to work more effectively with international partners. We've built the strategic plan to address these opportunities. At this point, I also want to just clarify that the suggestions we are now putting forward do not represent a top-down process. They represent a bottom-up emergent process. The ideas that we have identified have come literally from the contributions of the many people who have been part of this process, right down to suggested language and the key ideas. Our job as a strategic planning steering committee has been to try and pull all these pieces together from this bottom-up effort. So the focus of the strategic plan is on one ultimate goal: to deliver on the Wright State experience. We propose that the Wright State experience is where we truly deliver on our mission. The Wright State experience reflects the effects of all we do to help our students as we prepare them to excel in their lives and chosen careers. The Wright State experience is what differentiates us. When we are at our best, we provide powerful learning opportunities for our students. We integrate research and innovation. We blend online and face-to-face learning, and we mix practical experience with cutting-edge discovery. The Wright State experience is reflected in the strategy statement that's found on page 10. To review, a strategy statement serves as something of an elevator speech, a short, concise summary that describes how we intend to achieve our vision and fulfill our mission. A concise statement such as this provides focus and clarity that guides decisions. The proposed strategy statement reads as follows: by 2025, The Wright State experience will provide a premium return on the investments of students and partners through a student-first system that leverages the unique strengths and resources of Raider country. I might add that when we talk about investments here, we're not just talking about financial investments. When we talk about return here, we're not just talking about financial returns. We're talking about broad, life-changing returns that can affect the trajectory of a student's entire life. The Wright State experience, as we've just described this, rests on 6 strategic themes or pillars that are critically important to our success. These are collaborative delivery of services, research, innovation, and entrepreneurship, strategic relationships, partnerships, teaching, learning, and programming, student life and engagement, and then we have several actions that can be described as strategic foundations. Across these, we've identified 24 projects that are aligned across the pillars according to 3 tiers of activity. And again, I want to emphasize that the project ideas that we're putting forward came from the community. The Tier 1 initiatives are big, bold or essential, high leverage activities that are prioritized for immediate action. Tier 2 initiatives are strong, important, highly important initiatives with moderately high leverage that should be started when possible and as soon as resources can be identified to support them. Tier 3 initiatives are important, provide moderate leverage in terms of impact, should be supported as soon as possible, but will only be resourced after other aims are addressed. These tiers are designed to build flexibility into the plan. That is, rather than define as year 1, year 2, year 3, we can begin working on all of these, but perhaps with different degrees of focus. I'll now present just a few of the specific projects under each pillar along with the goal that defines each pillar. So for collaborative delivery of services, our overall goal here is to strengthen our service-oriented culture by identifying and eliminating barriers to increase efficiency and support accessibility. The Tier 1 goal for this pillar is to redesign the transfer student experience. And efforts, as you've heard earlier, are already underway to do exactly this. And you can read the other initiatives in your draft along with detailed project plans that will be made available on the strategic planning website. The goal for research, innovation, and entrepreneurship is to leverage our innovative education, research, service, and entrepreneurial partnerships to produce graduates who excel in their fields and generate economic and social prosperity for our region and beyond. The first tier goal here is to strengthen and elevate the research enterprise. Indeed, there is much we can do to invest in the research capability of the university, and we have several, through this bottom-up process, identified several important actions that would fit under this label. The third area, strategic relationships and partnerships. The goal here is to engage the community in creating innovative, strategic, and deliberate win-win or mutually beneficial partnerships. Here, the Tier 1 goal is to strengthen university and U.S. military partnerships. You need to look for ways to serve a whole set of students and others who could come from that partnership. A second tier goal here is to establish an Office of Corporate and Community Engagement. Again, just as a clarifier, you can read about the other initiatives in your draft. There's a more slightly more detail, and detailed project plans for each of these will be made available on the strategic planning website. The goal for student life and engagement, we will provide an inclusive, diverse, student-centered experience through a holistic support system. Here, the Tier 1 goal is to reimagine the infrastructure for student engagement and programming. The goal for teaching, learning, and programming, we will deliver accessible, experiential, high-quality programs that address the diverse educational and professional development needs of our students and community. Here, the Tier 1 goal is to build Wright State University's e-campus. We need to to expand our online offerings and develop a comprehensive vision for online education, and what that looks like in connection with the key strengths that we have here at Wright State University. Finally, under strategic foundations, the goal here is to ensure that the university is structured, organized, and resourced to deliver on our strategic plan. And the tier 1 goal here is to make sure that we reorganize in a way that allows us to have the structure to deliver on our strategic opportunities. Let's talk now briefly about implementation. The plan is intended to be dynamic, and it will be updated as implementation unfolds. We will add to, modify, or subtract initiatives over time. We anticipate doing this on a 6-month cycle. The plan will follow the calendar year starting annually on January 1st. During the spring semester of each year, we will sponsor a university summit to review our progress, celebrate successes, identify emerging opportunities, and recalibrate. During the fall semester, we will perform a 6-month review to track our progress and make adjustments more generally. This cycle of activity will provide opportunities for others to come forward with creative proposals that address emergent opportunities. And as needed, we'll elevate new tasks, task to higher tiers of focus, or introduce new tasks, or remove activities altogether. Every action has an identified owner or owners who will direct the completion of each project. And at the highest level of the university, the president, university leadership, and a new director, or a director for strategic initiatives will coordinate and facilitate the overall process. Supportive leaders will have the opportunity and responsibility to prune projects, plant new ideas, and champion new pathways to success. Project leaders will work directly with the Director for Strategic Initiatives to carry out their initiatives. So on that note, we'd like to introduce Nova Lasky, who will be the Director of Strategic Initiatives. She's behind me, I believe. Can you stand? Okay. Nova has been at Wright State for 13 years. She has 2 Wright State degrees and has broad experience working across the university in various places. She has a great understanding of the academic, administrative, and operations functions of the university, and she also has worked hard to obtain several professional certifications, including she is a Six Sigma Black Belt. Nova will be responsible for coordinating the implementation of the strategic plan, helping leaders to integrate the fiscal sustainability plan, program effectiveness review, and process improvements. So we welcome Nova. And I might just add on a personal note, I've worked with Nova many times over the years. I think she's one of the most phenomenal leaders I have had a chance to rub shoulders with. So she's great. The last thing I think we want to discuss is metrics. I know this is of great importance as we think about how to measure progress. The current draft includes a set of proposed pillar-level metrics, and I would also advise you that there will be more specific project-level initiatives, metrics associated with each initiative. At the pillar level, we have 3 proposed metrics for collaborative delivery of services, 4 for research, innovation, and entrepreneurship, 3 for strategic relationships and partnerships, 3 for student life engagement, 4 for teaching, learning, and programming, and 4 for strategic foundations. All right, I want to bring this full circle by ending where we started, which is really on the fundamental identity of the university. In the early stages of our work, our focus was primarily on understanding the values that define who we are at Wright State University. The plan as we've presented it is constructed around this understanding of values, mission, and vision. The currently proposed versions are in the documents that you have, but just want to reiterate that the values we have are defined, are organized into two categories. These are values that define our people as attributes or virtues that are necessary for our success, and then values that define our mission. So the values that define our people are principled, visionary, innovative, collaborative, and inclusive. Values that define our mission: foster student success, create new knowledge, transform our world. The mission is in the spirit of the Wright brothers. We empower all students to excel in their lives and chosen careers through integrated learning, research, innovation, and experience. And the proposed vision is to be a diverse, inclusive university that transforms the educational, economic, and social fabric of the communities we serve. All right. We just want to conclude with just a quick video that sort of shares the spirit of what we've done. For those who participated in any way, this is just a snapshot of perspectives that was taken from an event that occurred in February, where we were having our very first meetings. And I want to invite you to look for the themes that I've just described, how they had their roots even at that early stage of the process.
Tonight's process was really engaging. It was really interesting to hear other people's perspective on the strengths and the opportunities of the campus.
Whether we're faculty members, staff members, students, alumni, we all share the same vision for Wright State.
They seem to care about what the community thinks, what the students think, what the alumni, what everybody here in this room thinks.
What I was fascinated by was that 4 of the 5 of us had almost the same moments. We had a real unity, even though we were staff, community person, and faculty. I think what was really interesting at our table, every person worked in a different part of the university, someone in career services, somebody in housing, and in my area, as well as an alumni member. And all of our stories seem to revolve around student success and student opportunity, that those are really our points of pride.
There seemed to be a common thread here that it was student connectivity. Everyone had a sense of pride, graduation, the building of the Nutter Center, all this that connects our community, and just what a force Wright State is.
We really should be focusing on efforts we can engage in that would increase graduation rates, increase student satisfaction, and make students proud to be part of Wright State.
We came up with some great ideas, our different groups, and I think it will be helpful for the university administration to help look towards the future.
It created a lot of hope that there's a lot of good talent, there's a lot of good resources, and there's some shared values that can really propel us into the future.
All right, so just to conclude, I know that we're on time, so we wish to invite commentary on the plan as we work toward a final document. We will refine the project plans even further, clarifying milestones, budgets, metrics, and deliverables. And as I mentioned, updates to the website will be delivered over the next, or will appear over the next few weeks. I think it's safe to say that we have people at Wright State who are hungry for action. We really do. And this plan provides direction that will help us to reinvent the university. This plan puts students first, highlights the importance of the Wright State experience. It has followed and will continue to follow a collaborative process, provides a framework for implementation, and again, it is intended to be a living, adaptive plan. Thank you, and entertain any questions.
Are there any questions for David or Mike? Hearing none, that concludes our public agenda. I'd like to move into executive session. In accordance with the amendments to the Ohio Open Meetings Law, the board, after majority of a quorum and by roll call vote, determines to hold an executive session by offering the following resolution. Resolved that the Wright State University Board of Trustees agreed to hold an executive session on Friday, October 19, 2018. Be it further resolved that pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code 121.22G, the following issues will be discussed in executive session: collective bargaining. I offer this motion. Is there a second? Second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Fecher?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Lenagos?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
Mr. Moore? Yes. Vote is unanimous.
Meet upstairs and then come.
We're going back.